Welcome to another episode of the Arrows podcast. We're joined by our special guest, Cortnie Draper from the Southern Realty Specialists. Today, we're going to talk about leadership and mental health and just taking care of yourself and how that affects just your everyday work, but also in leading that team. Last summer, you stepped into like a leadership role at your real estate team.
Yes.
And I wanted to maybe get some background on first the team and maybe what it looked like before you stepped into the role and kind of what that transition looked like, especially considering like everything that went with it.
I'm laughing because I'm having immediate flashbacks. Okay, so when I first joined SRS, SRS is a Southern Realty Specialist. We have since expanded just out of the Birmingham market. We are in Florida and Colorado, actually. And so we are now SRS Global. So it's been a transition just to even say that correctly. But I giggle because in 2020 is when I joined SRS, and a month later, COVID happened.
I remember that because we did our first, shout out to the Homies and Homes podcast.
It's
R.I.P.
funny. Like someone was messaging me yesterday and was like, I followed your stuff on social media, like from your Homies and Home days with Izzy. And then I turned on my Spotify and it popped up playing and I'm like, oh, it's like
That's
so
crazy.
nostalgic and I love it.
But yeah, shout out to that.
Yes.
R.I.P. It was a great time.
Let's go back and like re-listen to all of those.
They're good.
Well, that was during,
But I remember that because it was, I think their second or third episode, you announced you were joining the team.
Yes.
But then also,
everything shut down.
It wasn't even shut down yet.
Yeah.
We didn't know what we were supposed to do.
Exactly, yes.
It was like pre-shutdown. I brought like
We were
Xerox swaps
and everything.
just cause.
We were 6 feet away. We were being very smart, but also we
Even
were like,
before they
what
said
the hell are we supposed to do right now?
Yeah. So anyway, so you joined the team and then boom, COVID.
Yeah.
And then what?
And then I feel like this was kind of the same perfect storm of me stepping into like a bigger leadership role with our team this past summer that like we did that and it was a great transition. And then the market went absolutely insane. So I've had conversations with Gene of like, am I jinxed? Like, what is going on here? But no, and I think it is that thing. Like I've said a million times, if you believe, I'm a Christian, I believe in God. And if I say that I believe in God, I have to believe in Satan too. And I feel like sometimes, clearly that market was not all about me. And there was nothing controlling, but it's just kind of like that thing of the setup of if this is important to you, like you're going to be challenged in it. Absolutely.
It's almost like you were like a new general going right into wartime.
Yes.
But no one told you.
Well, and it's funny that you say that because, again, a lot of conversations that I've had with our leadership team was like, I'm a great peacetime general. I'm a great peacetime general. I can motivate you. I can come. I can help inspire you. I can like help answer the questions that you need when you're there. But I've never been through a market like what we just went through. I mean, I started in resale real estate in 2016. And yes, in 17, 18, 19, you're working and you're marketing and you're doing these things and like you're strategically placing yourself to get clients. But I had never seen a complete and total halt and like the fear that people were having that it was going to be like a total crash, like a 2007, 8, 9. And so we had that conversation of like, yes, you are absolutely equipped and can do this. But it was also that thing for me of timing of like, I don't know how the hell to help you because I don't know how to help myself right now, pretty much. And just kind of going into like defense mode. And we've talked a lot about too, again, just like the perfect storm of things. We had a ton of just personal struggles and turmoil going on it was literally just like last year was the perfect storm to end the year. And I've said to everybody here, like, I do love a new week, a new year, a new everything. And I was like, I'm not freaking doing this again in 2023. Like, we are going to be in a better place. It has to get better. So
Obviously, it was a shit time
yeah,
that you took over during such like a tumultuous time, but I almost feel like man, there's not going to be a better teacher
Right.
than last year, for both our sakes, man. Oh my gosh, for multiple situations. Give me like one of the things that you took away from in taking over that team. And I think what's important to me too is that like you were so new.
Yeah.
You're like very young still to be taking over. How many people? How many agents?
At that time, we had 20 agents.
20 agents.
We had about 5 or more admin, like VAs, transaction coordinator, like behind the scenes
like
too.
I don't think people understand that. Like, okay, cool, they're agents, so they don't have salary or whatever, but their livelihoods are based like that's really influenced by how well you do too.
The mindset of it is crucial.
So it's like you're just 20, basically 30 people that are even including my team. Are like,
what do you want? What do we do?
Yeah, what do we do? What do you need? But also they are like kind of dependent.
I don't know.
They're like dependent on you figuring it out.
Yes.
And so that's just such a crazy time to have learned that. Especially again, like very young. Like
Keep saying very young.
You really are, dude. Like, because if you're very young, then I'm very young. But like a lot of people don't get that opportunity until they're like in their 40s and their 50s.
And I think that's where I was exactly that of like, you're trusting me. I understand why you're trusting me. Like I have that belief in myself, but also like being terrified and also not wanting to seem incompetent. That was something I think that was awful for me. Is I'm not good in asking for help when I need help. I'm more like, I will mask this, I will figure it out, I will stuff it down, fake it till you make it, because that's, I feel like, what I was grew up with. Absolutely. Like you just put on a smile and you figure it out. And in this business, again, when there's so many other people who are dependent on you, if nothing else, but just from like, here's what I'm doing, try this. If you don't have those answers and you can't at least go, I could have gone and asked for help. I chose not to go ask for help. And that was just like my pride and my stubbornness in myself.
Is that something you would like do 180 of? Like
well, that's who I am, period. I'm very much when I'm struggling, like certain people will absolutely see it, but to the rest of the world, like literally I had really open conversations with some of my teammates in like November and December, just of like personal stuff that was going on. And they were like, we had no clue. And I'm like, but like, is that a good thing? You know, like if it's so fake and so good at being fake, is it a good thing that no one knew that any of this was kind of going on and that I was struggling? So I have told myself, and again, like clean slate 2023, write down my goals. And I didn't even write down like really specific goals this year, but it was like, if you're struggling, ask for help. And doing things like that. And like, if you don't understand something, ask it. Or like, if you're not happy with something, say that you're not happy with it. And like, have those hard conversations to where you can move forward. Because like, if you don't, then I'm just going to be stuck in this same place, not learning, not growing, not accomplishing any of these things that I say that I want to do.
I learned that lesson like pretty early on. It's something that I lean on a lot, because also if you think about being a leader, like a lot of people are just going to be following your example. And I keep telling the team of like, if you need help, you need to ask. But then if I'm not setting the tone of like showing some vulnerability in myself, of showing that like, hey, I'm not infallible. Like I don't know everything.
Absolutely.
But also like having the mindset of like, if I am the only person with all the answers, that's probably fucking bad.
Like, it's not going anywhere.
Yeah. Like even Aaron behind the camera now, shout out to Aaron. Like I have to have some idea that she's going to know some shit that I don't. And like, that's okay.
Yes.
I mean,
that's like fun. Like,
oh my God.
Learn.
And so like opening that up creates that culture within your team of like, everyone can ask questions. There are no stupid questions. But I think that that's such a tough hump to jump over yourself when like you think like, I'm supposed to know everything.
Yes. Well, and I just like equate it back to, you know, like my marriage too. And like the example of a mother that I want to be with my kids. Like I keep reading these things all the time. It's like, you can't expect your spouse cannot read your mind. Like they don't know what you're thinking. If you don't communicate it to them, there's no way that they can show up like you want them to, or be there, or change something that's bugging you. And it's the same thing in these kinds of situations. If like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do, or I don't know how to help people in this situation to like be vulnerable and go and say, I'm struggling, help me. It's the same thing. And just like, again, not ever having gone through this, I was like, I don't know. And I'm being like 100% honest. I went to a bad place of just like self-destruction, basically, of like, why am I even doing this? I don't want to do this. I hate doing this, which is totally not true. It's just, it got very hard and it got honestly scary. And therefore you just are like, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm done.
Yeah, I mean, because without asking for help, without like having that release valve,
Oh yeah.
it makes the burnout even faster because
Yes.
it is like a pressure cooker.
Well, and that's the thing too, like again, talking about relationships, there are times when I go to Caleb and I'm like, I don't need nothing from you. I just need to talk. I just need to talk. I need you to listen to me. Let me get it out. And so on the business side, if you don't do that and just say, hey, maybe like I do need help, or maybe right now I'm just pissed off and I just need to talk this through and I need to know that I'm not crazy and like being able to do that. But even so much as that, like it was a very weird dynamic because like some of my very best friends, you know, haven't been doing this much longer than me. And like they were on the team with me. And so that dynamic kind of changed to where I am trying to set the example of like, we're not going to be complaining. We're not going to be whining. I don't want to be doing this. And then like, they're the ones who I literally would go and like spill that to. And then I'm trying not, it was just, so it's like I didn't have that outlet.
What did you find with the new boundaries of teammates? I mean, because, you know, even in our agency, like there's a little bit of that. Like we're all homies, but like at the end of the day, like we also have to remember that like we're
Business.
yeah.
It's just weird trying
It's
to
just
figure it out.
weird trying to figure that out,
Yes.
especially like with like the millennial leadership
Yes.
like mindset of like we all should be kind of not even the whole family thing. That's crap. But like, hey, like
We should all be working towards a common goal.
yeah, we should like be also like caring for each other, like having empathy and stuff. But
I think
sometimes it's like
that's-
just it's weird.
That's something that I have struggled with too. And again, like we kind of touched on gently of how we've kind of restructured our team. Praise Jesus, because of just where I am in my life. And I'm very thankful for that. But just like finding that dynamic that works. And I struggle very much with, so I'm the type of person who's like, if I'm on a team and I'm there and like my children are on teams, you're showing up. You show up to practice. You show up to do this. Like you put in your time. If people have got questions, you help them, you answer. Like you put in work. And so like if people aren't coming to team meetings, then it frustrates me. And I'm like, well, am I not adding value to is this why they're not coming? Am I not adding value? And then I get in my head about that. In 2023, have had a lot of conversations of just like, you can't control other people. You can't make people show up like you show up. You can't have them to want to do the same things that you want to do. And you have to make peace with that. Like at the end of the day, what their decisions have nothing to do with you. They really don't. And that's very hard for me because I'm a people pleaser and I need everybody around me to want to be around me and to be okay. And just like honestly, just remembering that like they have as much going on in their life as I do.
Yeah.
And like what's really the center of my world and what's going to take priority, and just understanding that sometimes everybody's not in the same place and like being okay with that. It's hard.
Because I mean, the reason why you became a top producer or even like thought of to be a leader is because like you cared so much. Obviously, translated.
That's the downfall sometimes.
Yeah, but I was gonna say, but like that's one thing that I've learned that I can't extrapolate beyond myself. Because what I've come to especially if it's like on a team where you're the leader and then there's like other people that are just they're the team members and their motivations are different, but not even that. It's like their investment in this thing is different from yours because they don't get the same piece of the pie. And I remember being younger and being like, why don't they just like
Why
go?
don't you care?
Why don't you like? Why aren't you going 100%? Like even in my last company before I started Arrows, I would think of my team. I'm like, why aren't you going as hard as me? And then I realized I'm like, did they have the same piece of the pie? And I was like, no. All right, cool. I'm gonna leave them alone because it's so weird because like you're like this should all go so well and so easy.
I'm like, I understand.
Here's the blueprint.
I'm here, do this. And yes, that has been a hard conversation too of just like, and I think that that's been a good thing for me this year is just kind of like peeling back that because I feel like it was I am still young, and I am still young. Well, I'll say I'm young,
You're young.
according to Josh. I'm still learning, and I'm still like figuring these things out, especially being in a position like that.
Yeah.
And so it's just like seeing how it works and understanding, like having a better understanding of other people and like what motivates them, and being okay if Susie over here is less motivated than Bobby, like that's okay, and just kind of meeting them where they are.
And maybe what 100% for them
Yes.
in May looks different than what 100% looks like in
And that's
October,
a
too.
great point that you make, because 100% for me in November in November 22 is not the same as 100% for me right now. Like, because I didn't have nothing to give anybody.
July 2022's my 100% was probably in the negative.
Yeah.
And then I was like,
I got up today.
I woke up. Yeah.
Got out of bed.
But I get it as a leader, especially as a young leader, like, especially as thinking of like, hey, I'm in that stage of my career where like I need to be building.
Yeah.
I need to be going super fucking hard.
Yep.
But then if somebody else, yeah, but then if someone else isn't necessarily like is on that same track, it doesn't make them wrong or right.
Yep.
Like, and that's hard to think about,
Yes.
but it has to be something that you're conscious of.
I'll tell you something that gets me. Like, I've been very honest that I have to stay off social media as much as possible. And this is why we have you wonderful people here. But I'm very bad about like comparison and like seeing other people's things. And I try very hard not to post like when my houses are under contract or when I'm doing this or when I'm doing that. No, if I'm out like doing showings, obvious, it's like that weird fine line, because you want to show you're active and you want to show and you want to like get people in to show what you're doing. But also I never want to do it at the detriment of like making someone else think that I'm doing more or better or something that they should.
But you are though. I'm just kidding.
But that's the thing, because I get in my head and I'm like, well, they're doing this and they've got this going on and I'm not doing enough and I'm not putting out enough and I'm not putting in enough time. And it's like that cliche thing of like, their race is not my race. You can say it, but it's so freaking hard to like live that sometimes. And I think what gets me is those days of like when I know I have more in me to give, that I'm not feeling that that's the days that I go there. Because let's be real honest, if I was doing everything that I needed to be doing, I wouldn't be on social media scrolling through, comparing myself to somebody else. So there's your tip of the day. Stay the hell off social media, because it sucks. I had that conversation with Caleb the other night, you know, of just like where we are and where our businesses are going and what we want to do in this year. And I was like, look, bro, like, yeah, we're going to sit in the backyard and have wine and watch The Bachelor tonight. But like I'm not drinking every night. I can't do this every night. I can't be waking up feeling like trash, because I need to put in effort every single day. I need to do what I know is going to build my business and make me feel good that I've put in the time. And when I'm doing that, yes, my business flourishes, but also it's like a mental thing of like, I want to be able to lay down at night and say, I did the best I could and I'm proud of what I did, and let it go and go on to the next one.
I think that is like the basis of even just finding any form of contentment with your career. It's like getting clear about what your expectations are of what you want out of it. I think too many people, and I suffered from this too, even in just the last year, of like, hey, I want to achieve X and also achieve Y, when they are conflicting beliefs. So for example, it's like, hey, I want to work 20 hours this week, but I also want to make $300,000, like, or, you know, whatever.
And that's exactly the thing, is like in what we do, obviously there's like the tangibles of like, I'm closing this deal and I'm doing that. But in order to get to those tangible things, there's a lot of days of you can't necessarily be like, well, I knocked it out of the park today. You know, like when you do get something under contract, you're like, check that box. All right, let's go. But it is just like setting those standards of, I'm going to do this every day. And literally like yesterday and today, that's a lie. I was showing houses yesterday, so that doesn't count. But today I was mostly like at the house, exercising, pouring in, like read some of my book, was doing laundry, because I was like, I need a day to just breathe and be okay with that. Because if I don't, then come Wednesday, I'm going to be mad because my schedule's been so full and that I'm running and that you're giving like of your time outside of Caleb and outside of my girls, and like I'm not getting to pour into them. And so I was like, I'm having to come to terms with some days reading a book and doing laundry and sitting on my butt and walking a couple miles. That is enough, and that is okay. And I don't have to be like hustling for the next thing every single day.
Yeah.
It's hard though.
What have you learned about yourself, even in just the last 6 months, about like your leadership style?
So I am very much, I've heard it said a lot of times, people are like, how do you stay motivated? How do you stay motivated? And I'm like, motivation is a lie to me. I'm very much a person of routine. Most days I don't want to get out of bed. I want to sleep till 10 o'clock because that's just my personality. I need to get in a routine of like, I'm getting up at this time. I'm doing this workout. I'm reading what I want to read. And then I can put in my time doing this. And I know I have that amount of time, and then the kids are coming home because sometimes they're showing, sometimes they're stuff. Motivation is a liar to me because I just need to get in and make healthy habits and make routine and like figure out what works and what I actually like doing. That's a big thing in real estate too, is like calling people and doing this and calling expireds. But like, if you don't like it, you're not going to do it.
So are you trying to get your team members on a routine themselves, or like, is there like leadership stuff that you have to make into a routine yourself?
I think it's just meeting people where they are, because some people are like, I can get up every day and I'm motivated and I can do this. I think it's just like that mentality of like, if you're like me and understand, hey, I would stay in this bed all day if you let me, and I would not do this. Or like, if you are very self-motivated and like that, but just like having those conversations of what works for you and where are you and what's going to continue, like what can you do every day that's fun, that you like, that's going to build your business. And it's also kind of hard too, and just like meeting people in different places of like, are you married? Do you have kids? Do you have older kids?
What's important to them?
Yes. Like, do you have kids that are in daycare that only go till 1 o'clock every day? And so just like having those conversations of, if you've got 9 to 1, go to a coffee shop and make it work. Like, don't be trying to drive back across home to get where you need to. Go where it's convenient and where you feel comfortable, and like do what you need to do right then. But like, what is a priority to you? And that's another thing I feel like I've heard said on probably fitness things. It's not necessarily that it's hard or that you don't have time. It's that it's not a priority to you. So like prioritizing those things of what you want. And that's why I said I don't have I have my sleep do not disturb on until 8:30 in the morning. Because at that point I know I've gotten up, I've gotten the girls to school, I've hopefully worked out, I've read what I want to read, I've got some coffee in my body, and then like I can start answering text messages. But like, if I wake up and I'm reactionary to it, then routine, it throws my whole day off. I'm in a bad mood from the jump, like feeling like I've got to just like catch up all day.
Like, what I'm really hearing is, I think one of the greatest like lessons any leader needs to learn is like, you have to like show up for yourself first.
Absolutely.
Before you can even like be there for other people. How can you fill up other people's cups if like your cup is empty itself?
And it's just like making those little deposits every single day. And for me, again, it's like, once I can get in a routine and make these healthy habits, I'm good. Now it's hard as heck getting into those routines. Especially when like truly from October to December, I was just like just depleted. Poop-tea. I was just depleted, just not in a good place mentally.
Yeah.
And like, it's not a joke when I say my mental health and where I am absolutely dictates every single thing. It dictates my like where I am spiritually. It dictates where I am physically. It dictates how I'm treating people in my relationships. It's dictating whether I'm actively trying to go out and find clients to pour into. Because again, like you said, if I'm empty, why the heck do I want to bring another person around me that I'm just having to like love on and take care of and be patient with and walk through things?
Because you don't even have any energy to be patient.
I don't have the time to do it for like take a shower most days.
Yeah, dude. From like a recruitment standpoint too, it's like, how will a new member feel like they'll be coming into a safe place if
I'm like angry, pissed off, tired,
or like they can't even sense that you don't do that to yourself?
Absolutely.
You know?
Yeah.
And that's really is profound. It all comes back to like, how do you treat yourself? And how do you treat yourself? It is such like a great example of how loving you will be to other people.
Absolutely. And I've read a thing the other day, and it was talking about like females and like our skincare, our nightly routine, and all of this stuff. And it's like, you do all of these things, but like, what are you doing to yourself every single day? I mean, like, yes, you can work out, but like, what are you doing on the inside? Like, what are you speaking to yourself every day? What are you saying in your mind that nobody can hear? All of those kinds of things. I talk to myself more than I talk to anybody else every single day. And so it's that thing of like, are you putting good stuff in, or are you constantly like, this is wrong, this is not enough, this is not good? And again, that goes back just to like the mental health of it. Like, I think that's why I work out, is because then I can't think. Like, it kind of shuts that little voice off because you're having to focus on stuff. And so like when you can get in that and do something and get those endorphins going in the morning, and like you're happy and positive, and then it kind of spills over into the rest of the day.
But you're depositing into your own wellness too. And I think that's the biggest thing. Because then now no one can say it's like, oh, Cortnie doesn't take care of herself. How could she take care of me? You know? I think that's huge.
And we've had a lot of conversations too over the past like month, 2 months coming into 2023 of just like positioning and where I felt comfortable. And like my whole thing at the end of that last year, I was a top producer on our team, and I did do this. And literally when I got my numbers in for the end of the year, I was like, honestly, I'm surprised, because I thought I just like totally crap the bed like the last few 6 months or so. And so like when I got my numbers, I was like, I'm genuinely surprised by that, because like I just wasn't there. And so it kind of just, it happened to me. Like my business was happening to me. I wasn't happening to it. I want to be that person, and I want to be successful, and I want to be an example, and I want to be like a positive person who's engaged and doing this. And it got to the point, because of just so much going on, that I couldn't, like I just couldn't. And so just having conversations in this year of what I am comfortable with and where I'm comfortable and what I want to do, so that like can get back to being that person and get back to like being somebody that other people want to talk to and like want to have conversations with and want to ask me about my business, because I wasn't that at the end of last year.
Yeah. If you could distill maybe like one specific tactic in relation to your leadership on the team going into this year, what is that one tactic that you're going to be kind of like really focusing in on, at least maybe in like the first half of this year?
So I think just being like, when we're talking about our clients who we work with and agents who we want to attract and agents who I want to be around, I think it just comes back to being like very intentional about it. I'm fortunate enough to be in the place to where if I have a client who I know I'm not necessarily going to be able to work with for whatever reason, then I can refer these out to other people. I want to be able to focus on intentionally like making relationships and having conversations with agents who hopefully could see me as like, this is where I used to, like, y'all know where I came from. Y'all know all that story of like, this is where I am now, and this is what I can do. And again, I'm not like the biggest and the best of all, but by God, I work hard.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. So it's that thing, like, I want to be very intentional of me reaching out and trying to make these connections with people, as opposed to just being passive and like hoping that somebody's going to come to me. Because it's that thing at the end of the day, if you don't ask for something and like if you don't tell people what you want, they can't read your mind.
Mic drop.
I wrapped it up for you.
That was a really... It's almost like you do this like all the time now. But yeah, I think...
I've done this before.
I think that's a great place to end. Just like focusing on intentionality this next year, which I feel like the last 2 or 3 years...
It's been rough, man.
The world's just been kind of happening to a lot of us.
Say, like, I'm tired of life happening to me. I want to be intentional about what is happening in my life.
And not to say that we want control. Yes. I think that's different than wanting to be intentional, because I think intentionality is more about just like those like micro, small little efforts over time. Yep. You're not actually trying to control things. Right. It's just like you can control what you can control to as little of a scale as possible. And enough of those things will pay off.
Well, and even for me, like making the conscious decision of like, yeah, I'm mad about this right now and I'm frustrated about this, but like I'm going to give myself this time, and tomorrow I'm not thinking about it again. And like I'm letting it go, because again, I'm just like, I refuse to sit in a bad place again. Like you
can choose that.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, like, hello, if anybody wants to DM me or call me, we'll have a deep conversation about the end of my last year. I chose to stay there. And I'm like, I don't want to go. I don't want to be her. I don't want to be her anymore. Yeah. I deserve better than that.
You're intentional about that. Well, thank you, Cortnie, for the time. I think a lot of people want to hear that message, that you can be intentional about like your own personal routines, but also just like how it relates to working with others too is huge. But yeah, everyone for listening. Thanks on behalf of the rest of the Arrows team. Thank you guys for listening, and thanks to Cortnie again. And hopefully you guys check out the next episode. Yeah.
Peace.